Morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. For those who just joined in, my name is Enoch, and I'm the learning and development practitioner for Geotab Africa. So for everyone who's just joined in, remember that you can keep your microphones and your cameras off, just to ensure that we do not interrupt the signal whatsoever. All right. So in today's session, it's unlike the usual. We will be talking about how we are transitioning from our garment devices and over to our smart devices, where drivers will now be using the Geotab Drive app on their smart devices to conduct the normal duties that they used to on the garment devices. All right. I see that we've got a few people who has microphones on as well as cameras on. Remember, you can switch it off. For now, we'll be talking about out with the old and in with the new. What are we referring to? We are now referring to a transition from our Geotab garment devices and over to the Geotab Drive app. All right. So just to make sure that everything is fine, remember that should you lose signal or network during the session, do not be too alarmed. The recording will be made available on our various social platforms that you can have access to at a later stage. All right, so let's dive into the session. So just to backtrack a bit and make sure that everybody understands the Geotab Drive, where it is and basically where it falls basically in terms of the whole process, right? So remember that we have two apps that are currently then being in use. The first one is My Geotab, which is primarily for the management of the fleet, be it by management, supervisors, or control room, for example. All right. And then the second app is the one that we're going to be focusing on today, which is the Geotab Drive app. And that is the one that links our drivers to the organization itself while they're on the field, the Geotab Drive app. And a quick hint, when you're going to be downloading the app, you remember that My Geotab, the logo is MY for My Geotab, where the logo for the Geotab Drive app is a steering wheel that shows two hands on it. That is basically then an indicator of a driver. Okay. So once then that is done, this is where it falls into place. From our driver's perspective, which is where we will start. The driver will then insert, as per normal, credentials for logging in. That is my username. I've created a new one quickly. That's the username and password over here. And once they log in, this is basically how it will look like. Do not try to adjust your screen. Yes, you are seeing partially half of your screen. And this is because this is a view from like your smart device or your cell phone. This is how it basically then looks, but obviously on a fuller screen on your smart device. Now, once a driver has inputted their credentials, the landing page is where they have to select a vehicle that they are driving or the vehicle that is in question. So I've chosen here vehicle 1, which is the one that I will be going through the driver app or relating to. All right. So I say at the bottom, save and inspect. And then I can also see there's a reminder over here regarding an inspection. All right. So that is one of the features, but we'll dive into it just now. So once I say skip reminder, this is then how the dashboard will look like on the Geotab Drive app. So the two features that are currently in use is the asset inspection as well as messages over here. All right. So the rest of the features that you're seeing over here, this is our in-house database. So we do a lot of developments on this database. So please ignore these other features. However, settings is one of the ones that you will see or your drivers will see on the driver app itself. All right. So we can quickly then start with the inspection over here. So this is where the Geotab Drive app, as well as My Geotab, are working in collaboration to make sure that company or your organization is in line and adhering to certain safety compliance. All right. So once we've selected to inspect, you will see here, this is the vehicle identified, and then the driver can say, I want to then conduct an inspection on vehicle 1. Once that has been selected, this is where now the driver has the option of identifying what type of inspection are we referring to here. Is it a pre-trip, which is basically like first thing in the morning, just to identify if everything is, you know, in a good condition for normal operations. And then we have in-trip. So one can consider an in-trip inspection like a small inspection and not to a larger scale, like your pre-trip one, all right? So this is just to check during the day because of things like temperature, tire pressure, is everything in line? Do I need to fill up or pump up my tires, okay? And at the end of the day, this is where we also have a post-trip. And one of the purposes then of a post-trip is to ensure that by the time a driver heads off to sleep at night or when they conclude their last trip for the day, just check everything in terms of the vehicle to ensure tomorrow, as you're about to start your day, you are not in for a surprise. As you can remember traditionally from Geotab, the main purpose or one of the purposes of the Geotab platform is to ensure as much vehicle uptime as possible, meaning to ensure your vehicle is on the road as much as possible. Okay, so those are the three types of inspections: pre-inspection, in-trip, as well as a post-inspection. Once they've selected, in this case, I'm just going to use a quick one and say it's a pre-inspection. Over here, what you see is then the criteria that will be used for the inspection. So you as fleet managers, supervisors, you can then choose what are the main points that you want to be inspected by your drivers on a day-to-day basis. And with the assistance from our support team, this is where we can customize your criteria to basically have it the way that you prefer it. In this case, it's not a matter of one size fits all at all. All right, so it can be customized to your own requirements, organizational requirements. So the only example I'm going to use for now is amongst my criteria, we have fire extinguisher as part of the things that needs to be inspected as part of compliance, right? So here we are, we're doing inspections and we identified that the fire extinguisher, there's a defect. What do we then do? Click on that criteria and it will then basically open a few statuses based on the defect or your inspection. So in this case, it says here, all is okay. We need to replace it or another issue. So I'm going to say in this case, it's a different issue, but yes, we identified an error with our fire extinguisher. So once I say add a defect, this is where, as a driver, I can include my remarks. So I'm just going to use here. Extinguisher. We'll say extinguisher is not working. So while we're here, just a quick heads up. Remember that we are using the web-based application. The only difference between the web-based application as well as the mobile app that the drivers will be using is, at this point, once saying there is a defect, drivers also have the opportunity to take a picture. So it gives them a little button that allows for them to take a picture of the defect or whatever error they've identified during the inspection, all right? Which makes it very convenient when it comes to supplying or providing additional evidence when it comes to any defects that the drivers might identify, all right? Remember, in most cases or in some cases, a picture can say 1,000 words more than words itself, all right? So now we've got the remark, driver has taken a picture. Over here, we've got the inspection location, which is actually automatic. And this address is then taken from the Garmin device itself. I mean, the Geotab device in the vehicles, all right? And once that is done, this is then where the driver can say done and confirm that an inspection is then completed, and the system will confirm for them on their smart device and say here, inspection completed. Now take note, over here, we have a red status for vehicle 1 in terms of a defect that has not been resolved yet. Now we are done from the driver's perspective. He's done inspection, identified a defect on their smart device. Over to you now, management or fleet supervisor or control room. That is why I switched over to the My Geotab app. All right. So for inspections, fleet managers and supervisors can come down to engine and maintenance. Once clicking on engine and maintenance, there's a part that says here, asset inspection. All right, so now this is where you can search for the inspection you're trying to certify or to monitor. I'm going to say for today and leave it at today. You can basically search for inspections for last week, last month, or even a custom date over here at the bottom, right? So once I've selected that, over to the right-hand side, I can choose for which vehicle do I want to then monitor the inspection that was conducted. And there it is at the bottom, it's vehicle 1. So once I've chosen for vehicle 1, I can say apply changes. Remember, this is for today, right? Now, these are all the inspections that have been conducted for vehicle number 1. We've got one that was conducted at about 9:17. We can say that's about yesterday. And then over here, we have one that was conducted at 10:14, which is the one that I'm looking for. All right. Now, from the report in front of me, I can see it says here what asset it is, the vehicle, who's the driver who conducted the inspection in column number 2. Column number 3 is then the status of the inspection. And for serious issues where a defect was identified, you will see that column number 3, the status 1, shows a red spanner. This is just to bring it to your attention that there could be a defect. Again, I remind you, the main purpose is to ensure that your vehicles are on the road as much as possible. Hence the red spanner to call your attention or call for your attention. Okay. Then we see we've got columns for defects, identifying that fire extinguisher missing, any comments from the driver's perspective, besides the remarks that we spoke about. And then, importantly, what type of inspection are we referring to? Pre-trip, post, or in, all right? Asset type as well as certification. So regarding the inspection that we've just conducted now, there was no certification conducted, meaning we didn't authorize and monitor that inspection. So the question is, Enoch, how do we then monitor and certify that inspection? So for that, you will have to click on the actual date and time of that report. That is how you open that one, right? And forward, you will see all the information pertaining to the inspection that was conducted or the one that you have selected, including the carrier name, the date of the inspection, the address, what type of inspection was conducted. Over here, who signed off that inspection, meaning which driver did the inspection. We saw the vehicle itself. It said vehicle 1 at the top. And then from here under defects, this is for management now, all right, where you have to choose then the status of the inspection, meaning what have we done with the defect that was identified by our driver. So we have 3 statuses that you can choose from. Number 1, not repaired. Number 2, repaired or not a defect. So this is where you say, you know what, it has been repaired, everything is sorted. Or we've checked into it and we've realized it's not a matter of a defect. It's a matter of, let's say, for example, something needing to be replaced or something was out of place. Okay. And then the last status that can be identified or repair status is repair is not necessary for the safe operation of the vehicle. Now, in this case, this is where we say, a defect has been identified, but it's not one that is serious at the moment. Driver can continue with his journey or his trip, and we will be able to deal with this once he gets to headquarters or to the depot, all right? And then I can leave here a remark. So I want to say maybe, for example, we've repaired it, and then I can say replaced. Remember, we said it was not working. So now we say it has been replaced. Once that is done, I can say then save. And once I've saved it, I can also then proceed to save and certify. Now, the purpose of saving and certifying is to take acknowledgement of saying this has been dealt with and it is now safe in our record keeping. Hence, I said save and certify. And now we also have the option of printing or saving the certificate pertaining to the inspection that was conducted. It minimizes the administration process, allowing for control room, allowing for fleet supervisors and managers to do what is important and not paperwork in this instance. All right. I've seen many of our clients where actually having a whole file that is manually written by both driver as well as the fleet manager. Now everything is automated on the Geotab Drive as well as my Geotab platform. Okay. So that was the management perspective in terms of acknowledging a defect or an inspection that was conducted. Now I'm going back to the driver side to show you. Remember that here it was in red showing that a defect has been identified. Because I have certified it on the side of management, over to the driver's side, it will also show to say the previous report has been certified. And this then allows for the driver to continue with his journey and to conduct any other inspection that will be required of them during the day, be it now the in-trip or the post, because we already conducted our pre-trip inspection. Okay, so guys, this is basically then the asset inspection and how it works. And from the management perspective, this is where management has the opportunity to also pull all the reports that are required for necessary purposes. Okay. So I'm also then going to show you quickly the messaging feature when it comes to the Geotab Drive app. Okay. So that's the messaging part or the messaging feature. Now, when it comes to the messaging feature, this is then the two-way communication between the control room or fleet managers as well as the drivers, bringing that link together. So the two things that can be done with the messaging feature is number one, where we have the ability to send communication messages. And then number two, this is where dispatches can be done from my Geotab to the Geotab driver app, right? So let's say over here, control room, I'm going over to our tracking feature, which is the map feature. And over here, we've got a new client or delivery that needs to be done, whatever it is that I need to dispatch my driver to. So I'm going to select a random area. Once I've left-clicked on my mouse, the first option on my action pop-up is dispatch vehicle here. So once I've selected here, this is where it's going to take me to the messaging feature, still on my Geotab, allowing me then to send my driver to the recommended place that I wish to send him. All right. So the first things first, I need to search for the vehicle that I am trying to dispatch. Remember, I'm using vehicle 1. It has been selected. And then I can say here, compose message, which includes, as you can see over here, the address that I have selected or identified to dispatch my vehicle or my driver. I can send it now, or I can also then edit some type of dispatch instruction to my driver. All right. So there's the message instruction. Please send package to this location. And then including the address over here, and I can send it over. All right. So now that has been done from the control room or from management perspective. What will the driver see on his side? So when we come to the messages over here, this is where the driver, as you can see, there is a notification that he or she has a message. Once they click over here, oh, so the message is already open. So that's the one over here. Sorry, guys. So meaning, once the driver clicks over there, and there's the message, please head over to the zone location, and the instruction is over here, please send to this location. Now, drivers can simply, with one simple click on the dispatch address that you have sent to them, once they click on it, it will immediately then dive onto Google Maps. Now, remember that my Geotab uses Google Maps, so the integration is quite easy and it's effective. So once they've selected, this is where a trip will simply start by the driver clicking on directions, and then the trip will be laid out, giving them ETA as well as distance in between one point of the location right up until the final destination, which is for dispatch. Okay. Now heading over back. So remember that the driver received one side of the message coming through or coming from the control room. This is where he can also leave a message saying, for example, things like, I will only then be leaving in 10 minutes, for a quick example. All right. All right. And then he can send it over then back to our control room or dispatch purpose. All right. So with that, immediately I've shown you then how the two communication works. Number one, dispatch, and then number two, in terms of messaging in between driver as well as fleet supervisor or control room on the other side. I don't know if we have any questions. So basically then, guys, that brings us to the end of the Geotab Drive training itself. Remember, two features at the moment. The first one is asset inspection, allowing for our drivers to what? Take charge and take the front seat in controlling their own safety. At the same time, meeting compliance, pre-inspection, post-inspection, as well as an in-trip inspection. Okay. And for administration purposes, we can certify and keep the records of all the inspections as well as all the defects that has been identified. Sorry. And with the messaging feature, two-way communication, dispatch drivers, conveniently a simple click of a button, as well as communication between the two parties themselves. All right. So I don't know if we have any questions. I'm going to be checking with. All right. So we've got one question. It says here, will the current GPS automatically be transferred over to the new unit? All right, so if I'm understanding the question, the answer is yes. Remember that the Geotab Drive app is also then linked with my Geotab through the devices that are installed in your vehicle. So the location is integrated. As you've seen on the inspection report, we didn't choose any location. However, it was accurately identified through the devices that have been installed in your vehicles. And then the next question, it says here, who will supply the new smart devices? I don't know if you can clarify that question. Who will supply the new smart devices? But if I understand you correctly, I think this was from Tim. All right, Tim. In terms of supplying the new devices, we are referring then to the cell phones that drivers are using. All right, so we've identified that almost each and every driver has a cell phone. So that's the smart devices. It's the cell phones itself.
Yeah, so we won't be using the current device in the let's say the Garmin unit in the vehicle. We won't be using that at all anymore.
100%, we won't be using that anymore. It's being phased out. We're now moving over to the smart devices. Hence the session, just for me to familiarize you guys. And then if you want to at a later stage, I can also then conduct more training for the rest of your team, as well as training for your drivers, as they will be the ones then using the new platform. So for that change management process, we as Geotab Africa are more than willing to assist you when it comes to helping them with the transition, explaining to them how convenient it is from a professional perspective.
Great, thanks, man.
100%. Thank you, Mr. Stowe. Any other questions?
Enoch, thank you so much for the training session. It was very informative, and I fully see the advantages of moving over to the new system. You might not need to cover it in this session. Maybe if you could send out something to everyone with regards to multiple stops that have been preloaded. How would that then come through on the device? So we pre-set a trip for the day for my drivers to go out for deliveries. Would that come through in a 1, 2, 3, 4 session, or as it is in the Garmin at the moment, stop 1, stop 2, stop 3?
All right, so at the moment, it's going to be drive, stop, and then driver has to go back in and select then the next trip. So if it has 3 stops and then you dispatch it to him, he will see all the 3 addresses. He will click on the first one. It will be labeled in a chronological order, and he will drive to the next destination. Once he gets there, he will have to log in and select the next one. This is something that we're looking at in terms of making convenient in the future. But for now, everything has to be manually selected in terms of 1 to the next trip.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diesel. All right. Any other questions, guys? All right, I think that you don't have any questions at the moment. Remember that you have any additional questions. Okay, we've got a hand up from Lydia. Lydia, please go ahead.
Hi. Now, I just
Lydia.
want to know, will there be any additional cost to this add-on?
Additional costs, if I'm hearing correctly, are you asking about, let's say, data?
No. This add-on service.
Oh, absolutely not.
Extra.
Absolutely not. It's going to be free of charge. It's already part of your database. It's just a matter of downloading, creating new users or creating new drivers in this instance, if you haven't done so yet. And then they can basically then take it from there. Again, if you need me to give you guys any training relating to that, please send me an email. I don't know if you've got my email address.
We will get it.
You will definitely get it. I'm also then going to type it and leave it in the chat section just now, enochM@geotab.co.za. And then you can be in touch with me. We can see what we can arrange for you, be it training for you, as well as then training for the drivers to use the driver app specifically, okay?
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that interesting question. All right,
Enoch,
Tim, I see Tim's in. Yes?
Apologies. Can we also reach out to our key accounts managers? Would they know about this as well?
They would definitely know regarding this one and also any other relating products and offerings that we might have relating to the Geotab Drive and how can fleet-based organizations maximize in terms of fleet management from Geotab perspective.
Thank you.
Mr. Tim?
Yeah, Enoch, no, thanks, man. Yeah, that you popped up on the data there. I think currently the data is covered in our current contract.
So for the accuracy of that one, I think this is one of those ones that we'll make sure or we get the accurate information from our key accounts managers from the sales department, okay? Just to be sure, because I'm not sure regarding that one.
No problem, thanks.
100%. Thank you further on, Tim. All right, guys, I'm also then going to drop you guys the sales department's email address for those of you who don't have. I'm hoping by now every one of you has that one, all right? And then if you need anything from their side, let them know. They can also let me know, Enoch, this is, we need training for this client, and I will then step in and take it from there. So from my side, and on behalf of Geotab Africa, thank you guys for joining us. And I hope to see you very, very soon on our next webinar series. So be on the lookout for the newsletters. So over from my side, have a lovely day forward.